great.
Good.
It's first road game day in 2 years. Good place.
Crazy.
I'd say it's a pretty good place to start. I think we'll have a pretty good game, and the atmosphere will be pretty good tomorrow. I don't know about you guys.
Coach, when you look at this matchup, depending on Kentucky's health, anything stand out or anything that you're really looking forward to seeing tomorrow?
Yeah, I think that Kentucky has a hard time matching up in this game, I think. And, you know, as you look at it, everyone's going to get, obviously, all caught up in Oscar and David. And obviously, Oscar, a missed shot is like a pass off the backboard for him. But I look at it a little differently. I think they're, you know, how are you going to match up with O'Johnny? Because, all right, say you put Brooks or Toppin on because you want a bigger body on him that can contest the shots. That's great. Then who are you going to put on Jalen, who played great the last time these two teams played? And that's a problem. And then who are you going to put on Brown? Who now all of a sudden do you put Ty on Brown? Well, Brown, you know, they might run him off and get him posted. They might, you know, got to keep him off the glass. You know, you can't put him there. So you put Kellen Grady on Ochai, then you risk getting him in foul trouble. And he's going to have to chase Ochai all over the court off all those pin downs to dribble handoffs and get screened, and you need him to make shots. So I think there are some really interesting matchups in the game. You know, a couple fun ones to watch obviously would be Wheeler and Remy, two of the more explosive little guards in college basketball. I was really impressed in the Texas Tech game with Remy, even though, you know, he wasn't there at the end. He showed a little bit of that burst, and I call it selectively aggressive. Like, I think that's the key to him. I mean, the guy averaged 19 points a game a year ago. I think the key to him is, you know, he can score it, but being selectively aggressive and understanding what Bill wants of him. And that's where Bill is so good in terms of holding him accountable, but also giving him that freedom. So I think this has the makings of just an incredible game. And, you know, we don't know what, obviously, the situation with Ty or Jacob Toppin, that would change it a lot. I like a bigger guy on Abaji. I just think that he gets it off. I have a tape tomorrow that I'm going to do on our show. He got that last jumper off against Texas Tech in 0.6 seconds. I mean, he caught, as soon as his defender turned his head, it was like, bam. And he was behind, showed his hands, he was behind the ball in 0.6 seconds, he gets that shot off. And that's, that he's the best closer of college basketball, and we might have two leading candidates, obviously, for player of the year between what Oscar's doing and what he's doing. So, I mean, we're all giddy. You can't tell. We're just giddy about being here in the game and the atmosphere and everything that, you know, this game represents.
We see what it's like for fans in college game day, but from your side of things, just to be able to get out of the studio and to get back on campus, what kind of juice does it give you?
Yeah, I mean, like, look, our people have done an incredible job making the show in studio as good as it could be. You know, the producers, directors, everyone has worked so hard. But you know, look, when you're on site, when you feel the energy of the crowd, and you see the players warm up and sweat, when you're in practice the day before, and you get a chance to interact with the coaches and watch what they're trying to do. It's just different. Now, I coached for 33 years, and I didn't coach from the studio. You know, being back in the arena is it's just different. And we've been, you know, Fonz and I have spent most of our time in the studio, and like we've been anxious and excited to get back out here. And you know, thank goodness things are a little bit better, and we're all moving forward a little bit better.
Seth, when you look at Chibwe, when you look at what he was doing in West Virginia with Huggins and how he moves now to Kentucky, part of the reason he said he wanted to move was, you know, fit and whatever, but just the style of play, playing forward out, getting him in the middle. How much has that now gone to his strengths and really emphasized what he wants to do and given him the freedom to do that?
Well, it's a year later. He's also worked on his game, and I think he's surrendered a little bit of understanding exactly what he had to do. I mean, so the thing that blows my mind about Oscar is there's a couple things. One, the joy that he plays with. He plays with incredible passion and joy and energy. And, you know, I think that's been really good for John. Coming off a year like they had last year, having a guy that he plays with a smile on his face. and that's contagious. I mean, that's contagious throughout their team. So that's number one. Number two is I don't think people realize how good his feet are. Like we talk about the rebounding, it's instinctive, and he pursues every shot and this shot like it's a pass off the backboard, and all those things are great. And his wingspan's a joke, and he rebounds balls out of his area, and he gets to a good spot. All that stuff's great. His feet are incredible, and he leads them in steals. I mean, I'm sure on a ball reversal, Bill will probably try to backdoor him one time, but I mean, if he has a chance, he's in the stands away from the basket. He's knocking that thing away. He does it every game. His feet are incredible. He can guard the ball screen, get back into play. That's an area I didn't realize he had. And I think the other area that I thought he really was impressive is that little 15-footer where he's knocking it down. His footwork is just really improved, and it should over time. No different than Ochai has improved over his 4 years. You know, you should improve. But that spin move he made on the baseline at the end of the game against Mississippi State, recorded and threw it out. I mean, that's high-level stuff. So he's really good. I mean, he's really good. And he's gotten better. And I just think the joy, as a coach, when you're coaching a guy that comes into practice every day with a smile on his face, great energy, where you're not having it, you can coach him because you don't have to motivate him. And he's embracing that time. That's an, there are energy givers and energy takers. Aswashi was an energy giver, and every coach loves to have those guys on the team.
Seth, to your point earlier about National Player of the Year, it's early, but it was the end of the year. How do you see Oscar and Ochai amongst the others that would be the National Player of the Year?
I think they're right there. I mean, like, you have to have that moment. I'm watching Ochai. I thought, Kansas State, that was a pretty good moment. I mean, again, another time, he comes off the back screen like Bill always runs coming out of timeout, and then, he either catches the dribble handoff and comes off the dribble handoff. But what does he do? He reads it, he sees the defender above him, he catches it and goes. That was a pretty good moment. Now, the stuff Texas Tech was, was ridiculous. And on a big stage on that day of the week. So then Oscar turns around and gets 20-something rebounds and makes those plays down the stretch. I think Johnny Davis has got to be in the conversation. Without a doubt, I mean, he's got to be in the conversation. He had a moment early in the season when he had 37 against Purdue. I think there's like 5 or 6 guys. I mean, we forget about Drew Timme, and he because he's not on that same stage in terms of the games he's playing aren't right in front of us, and if they are, they're at 11 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. But what Ochai and Oscar did last week, in terms of momentum, you guys know. I mean, we're all, basically seduced by the moment, and those moments back to back, pretty impressive. Pretty impressive. I think that those two guys, because of what happened last week, might be leaders in the clubhouse today. You just got to keep on doing it. I mean, tomorrow's a big stage. It's not going to determine anything, but they're just two really good players. And I was just telling this to Chris, I'm blown away by Ochai. Just like how he has handled it. Like, he makes that big shot, and he was more concerned about what we have to do to win the game. That was done with. All right, now we're playing overtime. Everyone around him is losing their minds, and he's just like, let's get to the next play. And like, for him to sit there, it's 14 seconds left, and they're running all their action away from him, and him not to chase the ball and let it come to him. I mean, we're all greedy. How many players would have waited for that moment? He had great trust in his teammates. He obviously had practiced. They're great in late situations. But he just stood there, and all that action was going away from him. And he stood, he knew, he had confidence in his teammates. That thing was going to come back to him. And when it did, he was down, he was ready. As soon as his defender turned his head just a little bit to see the ball, it was like, bam. And he was behind the ball and got it off in 0.6 seconds. And he shot it like he expected to make it.
Does he remind you of any past great
I mean,
player?
right now, he reminds me of Ray Allen. He makes Ray Allen tough. You remember that great shot Ray Allen made against the Spurs? How quickly he got behind the ball? I mean, am I way off on that? I mean, and I love it that he ran his own race. I loved that he was patient, allowed himself to be coached, he allowed, you know, he didn't run from getting better. I mean, that doesn't happen a lot today. He blows it, you know, he blows me away.
So do you think Christian can be a pro after this year?
After this year,
Yeah, after this season.
I would look at Ochai and say, he was pretty patient. Instead of running out the door, maybe I work on my game one more year. Maybe I show people you know, obviously, he can make shots, he's got a good feel to pass the ball, he can rebound his position. You know, but maybe gotta get a little better off the bounce. I mean, I'm sure like, here's the deal, it's not getting drafted it's, can you stay in the league? So like, you know, like, that's why I say run your own race, you know, cause there's a ton of guys that got in the league, but they can't stay in the league. What's the difference? With NIL right now, I know, you know, it'd be a second round draft choice, let me ask you this, if it was you, how old are you?
25.
25, all right? You wanna fly on Southwest, bags fly free in the G League? Or you wanna walk in here and have an NIL with a bunch of money in your pocket and play in front of these crazy fans every single night, flying on charters, staying at the nicest hotels, and like, again, I don't know, I hate to make decisions for anyone else because I don't know their family situations, but now with NIL, and again, I don't know the situation here with NIL, I gotta believe it's pretty good. I mean, you know, I wanna come back as a player. So I would say, yeah, could he be? Sure he could, probably, but, you know, to me, sometimes, you know, you wanna be a second round draft choice, or maybe, you know, middle of first round, and, because those veteran guys, that's what these players don't understand, like Mikal Bridges, Jalen Brunson, Malcolm Brogdon, and I can go through a whole list of guys that ran their own race, PJ Washington waited an extra year, and all of a sudden they benefited from being just a little patient. So, but again, I don't know his family situation. I do know he's a pretty damn good player. Great college player right now. Anything else? You good?
Good.
Great seeing you
Thanks,
guys.
Coach.